Welcome to Gaining the Technology Leadership Edge, a podcast for tech executives. We provide strategies and tactics to help executives succeed and further their career goals. With interviews from industry experts, leaders, and innovators, this show will surely get you on the edge of your seat with thought-provoking advice on how to stay ahead of the competition. Welcome to Gaining the Technology Leadership Edge, a podcast exploring the latest trends, strategies, and insights in technology leadership. We'll discuss the most important topics and ideas shaping the industry today, from emerging technologies to digital transformation and beyond. Join us to learn all of the juicy secrets of tech leaders, their biggest successes and failures, on our quest for gaining that all-important technology edge. So are you ready? Let's get started. Today's guest is Ram Prasad. Ram is the CEO of Delence Fractional CPO / CTO Services, a technology expert with over 20 years of experience in the industry. Ram shares his insights into how businesses can use fractional CTO / CPO services to scale their operations, improve efficiency, and become profitable. Through his work with startups and SMBs, Ram has helped businesses of all sizes overcome common challenges and achieve success through the power of technology. He shares real-world examples of his work and discusses the importance of aligning business goals with technology initiatives to create a roadmap for success. And I couldn't agree more. Welcome to the show, Ram.
Thank you, Mike.
So first question for people out there. I mean, I know what it is, but they might not. What is a fractional CPO and what is a fractional CTO?
A fractional CPO is a fractional Chief Product Officer. My customers are typically small to medium-sized businesses or startups who do not want to or cannot afford a full-time Chief Product Officer or Chief Technology Officer. So they're looking for the same level of expertise, same level of leadership competence, and the same level of trust factor in leadership decisions that they cannot, at this point in time, engage a full-time resource for. So that's where we come in. I spend as little as 1 or 2 hours a week to up to 20 hours a week on the higher end to provide the same level of expertise and leadership that companies need in order to succeed. So the CPO is a Chief Product Officer. So it's everything related to the product, finding the customer, not finding the customer, but doing customer discovery, aligning, making sure that what we build is what the market needs. The Chief Technology Officer is the leader to ensure that we build what the market demands and executes on the roadmap.
So what is typically, like percentage-wise, what is typically the savings by using a fractional CTO versus hiring a CTO yourself?
The savings is around 70 to 75%, or that is the savings that one would incur, because you have the flexibility of scaling up or scaling down as the demand warrants. Once the team is comfortable, you can put on pause if you feel that the team has got a hang of it, but available in a future date. But yeah, 70 to 75% is the savings that I see that customers can benefit.
Yeah, I would agree with that. You know, I run a company called Your Virtual CTO, and all I offer is, well, I have 3 products that I offer, but I offer fractional CTOs. I offer NetSuite development and chatbot development. And if you think about it, I focused on those 3 things for a reason. I mean, NetSuite and chatbots are just when you can specialize in an area like that, you get more business. But I've noticed, like, the clients that I have that hire me as a fractional CTO, they're like in sticker shock at what an actual CTO costs. And then they want to know, sometimes they want to know, well, how come it's so much less expensive? And, you know, I try to explain to them, well, it's because, like you said, I might only spend an hour in a week helping you. Right. And some of them, you know, what they want is come in, give me a strategy, and then meet me, come to meetings on a quarterly basis and help update us on the strategy. That's it. You know, and I think it's smart for businesses to hire someone because your other option is to like have the blind leading the blind, right?
Absolutely.
What do you think are the top two advantages to having a fractional CTO versus nothing at all?
Well, the first advantage is you have that wealth of experience and knowledge that versus nothing at all. So instead of, and that's when clients typically call me. The person who typically calls me is the CEO of the company. The CEO of the company has no CTO or CPO on staff. He or she has an execution problem. They're smart folks capable of building excellent products, but with no direction or lack or incorrect direction. So the advantage is steer the ship in the right direction to achieve the outcomes that should be achieved. So that's, I mean, the first is this the experience, the expertise that comes with the CTO versus none. The second is you can scale up or down what we mentioned earlier. You can, based on your needs, you can customize the needs. So as an example, a recent engagement of mine, which is continuing, I do 2 hours a week. So there is a 2 hours a week. The individual has there's an individual who holds the CTO role, but the individual has grown up organically through the organization. He has been with the organization for 15 years and started off as an engineer, grew into a manager, and is now promoted to CTO. But the CEO wants him to perform at the level of a CTO. He likes the individual. He wants to grow the individual. He thinks he's capable of the individual rising to the CTO level. And that's all true. In my observations, that's all true. He just needs some guidance. So I meet with him once a week. We have an extended lunch session. We map out what the next week will be. We understand what the current status is. I give him strategies and tips on how to make leadership decisions, how to execute on those decisions. And the CEO and myself are pleased with the outcomes. So for 2 hours a week, you get value of raising or potentially grooming a person within the organization that he likes to exceed expectations to perform at the CTO level. So that's value for money.
That's really nice that that the CEO, understands that he has a person who can do the job, just needs a mentor to help them get over the hump, basically. That's actually really smart on their part. I'd never heard of someone using a fractional CTO for that purpose, but that's actually a really brilliant reason. That's a forward-thinking CEO right there.
Yeah, and he's introducing a lot of new innovations in the organization, which I'm helping him, which I'm kind of giving him tips on how he can execute on those. But yeah, you're right. It's a good observation.
When a lot of CEOs don't totally understand what a CTO is supposed to do, and what their actual role is, they think it's more of a hands-on, dig into the code, dig into the hardware role, when really it's more of a strategic position than actual what's the other word I'm thinking of? I can't think of the other word, but it's more strategic. It's not so much of a day-to-day dig into things. It's more of a guidance. Here I'm setting the tone for the future. So that's really interesting. What type of companies do you typically work with?
My companies are typically technology-focused companies. They may be across different verticals. 100% of my client base are enterprise SaaS companies. They provide some kind of software as a service to either in the oil and gas industry or the ed tech space or healthcare. I'm working across multiple verticals, but they are all enterprise SaaS companies. So they are building a product that clients. So that's the companies typically are anywhere from 1 million in revenues to 20 million in revenues. That is the range of my current client base. I do have a couple of startups which are pre-revenue, but who engage me more on I just mentor them and there's some small cost associated with that in some cases. But I also mentor startups at no cost through accelerators and incubators. But my typical customer range is 1 million to 20 million, maybe a team size of anywhere from 3 to 4 engineers to 15 to 20 engineers on the staff. That's the typical customer base.
Right. And they don't have any concern. I mean, being that they're kind of within similar verticals, they don't have any concerns with like competition,
I haven't
conflict of interest at all.
these are enterprise SaaS customers. That's the common thing, but they're all across different verticals.
Okay, makes sense.
So the verticals are vastly different. No, I have not heard any concern. I've been doing this for 6 years now, that hasn't come up as a major concern, as a concern at all, in fact.
Yeah, and I can see why it wouldn't, but I just wondered if maybe there was questions about that. So tell me, how did you get started in your career in technology?
In technology, this was I started. I don't know. I always wanted to be an engineer. Growing up, my uncle owned. I had an uncle who owned. Just a second, my earpods.
Sure.
My uncle owned an engineering firm in India, back home in India, and he had a very successful business. So I would visit with him, and we would talk only of two things. We would talk about chess, and we would talk about business. And he would, I was young, in 10, 11, 12, and I would love to visit with him. And he would share his business tips, his business successes, his failures, all of that he would share with me, and over a game of chess, And we would go deep into the night playing chess and talking business. So that was imbibed early on. And I always wanted to own a business like him and an engineering firm. So I went to college for an engineering degree. That was the only option I would consider. And that's how I got started. And then I started working as a software engineer after graduation. And that's how it started. Yes.
Do you still play chess to this day?
Yes, I do. Not as often as I would love to. I need to find people. I need to probably join a chess club. I used to do that many years back. I used to play at a chess club where we would play every weekend, but I haven't done that for many years now, but I still enjoy the game. Yeah.
Yeah, myself as well. I've played since I was really little. That's interesting. It sounds like we have similar backgrounds, because for me, it was like probably the late 1990s. And I had to make a choice. Someone advised making a choice between web application development or desktop application development. And I thought, this thing they call the internet is just getting bigger and bigger and growing more and more. I think I'm going to focus on that side of things. And even though I didn't immediately enable that, I still had a lot of desktop application work that was thrown my way. I mean, my first application ran on Netscape 1.0. So
wow,
it's a way back there. I tell the younger people that I meet these days is like, I probably have seen more really weird, strange issues with like dynamic web pages and stuff like that than they'll ever encounter. Because we if you think about it, we came up helping build all that stuff. So we were the guinea pigs, and then they'll always ask for examples, and I'll give them things like, hey, did you know we used to use when active server pages first started, we used to use access databases like for some of the smaller applications, and
absolutely.
They're like, what?
Yeah. And amazingly, some of my clients who have larger clients and I work with the larger clients through my direct client, helping their clients in turn. I'm amazed. Some of them still have access, and the question is, how do I get out of access? And why should I get out of access? It's convenient. It's right at my desktop. I can edit a few files. I can edit a file and make it work. But yeah, so that's still there. It's still there in a few cases.
Yeah, no, I used to offer something where I would audit people's technology, and I was always amazed at the legacy tools that are still in existence. And I mean, some of it I would marvel at, because there's not even support for them anymore. And you'd say, wow, what happens when you run into a mission critical issue? And then they say, well, we pray we don't, because like Microsoft doesn't support this tool anymore, or that tool, or whatever. And it's like, wow, that's dangerous. But then of course that's my job to kind of educate them on the dangers of playing that game too. As I feel, I've always been one who, I feel like, if you understand the potential downside and you have a plan for dealing with it if you face it, why not continue to use the technology that you like? I've never been one. Even my children always get on my case, because I'm always about one Windows version behind, because I don't trust that I'm going to upgrade my entire system that I run my business on, and then, God forbid, there's some kind of major issue with the release. I don't want to be in a position where I have to emergency patch my system because of some security flaw or whatnot. So I stay a little bit off the cutting edge of technology. I stay aware of what's going on. Obviously, we both have to, or we wouldn't be staying in business. But man, taking the risk for myself, I just don't do it. I stick with the little bit behind the times technology. And then when you hear that something's stable, then you go for it. I mean, I'll tell you, like I tell people this all the time. My least favorite experience with technology recently is the iPhone 14. That phone, at first, I was ready to throw it in the trash. It was
Really?
so
I just
horrible.
got mine yesterday.
Well, lucky you that you waited, because
Oh,
they've
okay.
ironed out all the crazy bugs. But I mean, they would do crazy things, like all of a sudden, none of the buttons on an app, you'd punch them and you could see them depress, but nothing would happen. I mean, all sorts of strange things were going on. But they fixed it. But that, I have to say, the rollout of that OS was horrible. They did, and I think Steve Jobs was rolling over in his grave listening to what was going on. But so what typically, what areas of technology are you the strongest at?
My greatest strength is auditing and reviewing current landscape, and proposing a new roadmap to accomplish their goals. So it's modernization of their platform. That's one of my strengths. The second strength is is execution. So, and this is where clients call me first. They don't know that they need a roadmap and looking at the current landscape. The second strength is execution, meaning they are in trouble, as in they're not executing against the expected roadmap that the CEO has established, right or wrong or good or bad. That's the roadmap he wants executed. And but like I mentioned earlier, there's a good team, but it seems like it's taking much longer than when the CEO was the founder role. He had a team of one or two. And I'm amazed. I always get this feedback. When the team was one or two, when he was managing with one or two people, things were going faster than with 14 people on staff. With 14, it seemed like that. At least he felt that way. And good for him, because in order to get from 0 to 1, he needed to have got fast with 0 to 1 or 2 people. With 13 to 14 people, things might be happening, but it might be disjointed. It might not be coherent. It might be pulled in different directions. There might be some small overhead of processes. All cumulatively together, the CEO is under pressure from the market. The reason he has got to 14, 15 is there's a market demand for his product. And he needs to deliver on that. And the market demand, so he sees that there's demand, but he relates it to his 1 or 2 people where there was a market demand to just get the product out there. Now the market demand has grown, relatively speaking, exponentially. And so now, but with 13, 14 people, it's not happening as quick as he wants. So that's when I typically come in. So before I talk about roadmap and before I talk about strategy, and the first step is to gain trust, to establish credibility. So you have to make sure the team is performing optimally. That's the first order of the day. So establish a process. And again, the process should be a simple process. You follow some agile processes, but it should be a simplified process to get the team started so that they can execute. And equally important, visibility to the entire team on the process, on the status, on the accomplishments, on the technical challenges. There should be visibility as well as so that everybody has an insight and an understanding of why certain things are taking longer than expected, or rather, it's not expected, longer than anticipated. They just want it to happen right away. So then there should be an increased appreciation for why a component takes longer to build, or what are the challenges around it. So that, if there's no visibility into that, then the CEO has some concerns.
Sure. See, I actually, that's really interesting that you say that, because we're really in alignment. Because for me, I do a lot of business coaching of CTOs, and one of the things I teach them is I actually call their staff their tech army. And, you have to come up with cute little things for these people to grasp the concept. But I say to them, like, okay, think about a real army. They're specialists that do certain things. And then there's like, general soldiers that, they have their marching orders, but everybody has their role. And so that's the first thing that he teaches them, is make sure that everybody has their role. But then also, like you talked about, empower the employees so that they feel like they have some say in what's going on. Ultimately, CTO makes the final decision when there's two directions or multiple directions to go to. But also what you said, making sure that you're communicating with your CEO and upper management, which you're a part of in most companies, but making sure you're communicating with them in a way that they understand. And like, too many people fail to understand what the other person gets about their job. They think that, oh, it's obvious. He meets with me every week. How can he not know, right? But like my own self, I learned this because, I came from a programming background, and then I was hired by a company to help them finish off a project. They liked me so much, they hired me as their chief technology officer. Years later, the CEO would say things like, well, but you don't know .NET, and we need someone who knows .NET. And I'd say, what makes you think I don't know .NET? I know how I wrote this code right here, and it's in .NET, So those are the things I teach them. It's like, if you don't let your CEO know, and like, I'll give you an example, and it's kind of a different example, but like, I was having a conversation online with some people who they drive for DoorDash, and they think customers know that DoorDash has nothing to do with the restaurant, that they're just a contractor. But yet customers don't know that. And you have to educate them on it. And then guess what? Your job's smoother. So when your CEO knows that, hey, I'm working on this thing, it's going to take this many weeks to develop, it's going to take this long to test, and then we have to do this, this, and this to deploy it. He may not on a granular level understand everything you're saying, but you just gave him a calendared schedule that he can say, all right, so August 1st, it's going to be live. Yes. Okay. Now he can relax a little bit and not worry. And he might want status updates or whatnot. And also, like you're talking about getting things done faster with 2 people versus 14. It's kind of the Twitter effect. They went from 8,000 employees to 1,500, and things run better. He's getting more done. And right. It's, you can't hide in a smaller environment. That's part of it. And that's been my experience too. The smaller the team, the better it is. I mean, there's a reason why the project management methodology is called agile, right? It's to stop from bogging you down with a bunch of, mess that you have to deal with. Well, that's really interesting. How do you feel about meetings in general? Like, do you think meetings are a worthwhile endeavor, not a worthwhile endeavor, or sometimes maybe they are and sometimes they're not?
The meetings are good as long as they are crisp, to the point, and the team is prepared to give updates. It's not, so it should be, agenda should be well defined, and it should be cut off, depending on the scope of the meeting, 30 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever makes sense. Maybe 1 hour if the scope of the meeting demands it. But whatever it is, But any meeting that does not have a fixed agenda and a fixed objective that should materialize from the meeting is a waste of time. You should also have participants who contribute to the meeting, who are necessary in the meeting. You can always distribute meeting notes to the remainder of the team. But if you are an active participant, but at the same time, talking about life-work balance equivalently, there's always a balance. You don't want people to be left out. You should convey that you're not being left out. This is the agenda of the meeting. But as long as the meetings are essential because it's easier to convey in person via meeting as opposed to words. Engineers, not all engineers, a lot of engineers are cryptic, and you can be cryptic in a messaging format like instant messaging, Teams, or something equivalent. But so the meeting engages, make sure we understand what the person is trying to convey, the requirements are understood clearly, the challenges are understood, and it's also an opportunity to brainstorm. So meetings are good, but it should be with a clear agenda, and you should cut it off if it's not going towards the agenda. So, and yeah, that's my take on it.
I love the word you used there, crisp. I mean, that's a great word, because like I overall don't like meetings, but the reason I don't like meetings, like if I'm running a meeting, they're there for a reason. I even take big projects and I'll have a meeting with just the DBAs, and I'll have a meeting with just the software engineers, and I'll have a meeting with just the QA team. And then sometimes you have a mixed meeting, but crisp, having a good agenda, only taking the amount of time that you need. Don't let it float. Too many times meetings float and you're planning 30 minutes and suddenly it's 45, 50, an hour. You're wasting people's time. Don't do that. I love that. That's a great word, crisp. That's a really good word.
And the key thing is, do not wait for anyone to start the meeting. You start with the agenda. You start, even if one person is on the call. That's what I do. The meeting starts. Because people come to my meetings on time because they have the fear of missing out on what happened in the first 3 minutes.
Yeah.
But that's where
that's a great point. I used to work on an executive team, and the CEOs, we'd have meetings on a weekly basis, and it was first thing in the morning. So of course you're really setting yourself up for people running late. And he would sit and wait, and I'd say, why are we waiting? I mean, I have stuff I got to get done, and I have this meeting scheduled for an hour, and that's it. Why are we waiting? Oh, well, they're not here yet. Well, they knew what time the meeting started. They should be here on time. And you're right. What ends up happening is you create a respect for the time, and they show up. I even heard a thing one time. I'm not sure if this still holds true, but like we had a management consulting team that would meet with us on a monthly basis, and they taught us to schedule meetings at like 10:07.
Yeah, I've seen those invites.
Yeah, and they say it's like they say there's something about not being at the top of an hour or the bottom of an hour that gets people's attention. They're like 10:07. So I don't know. I mean, I've tried it both ways. I don't really see much of a difference. The people who are going to be late are late, and those who are going to be on time are on time. It just is. But crisp, I'm going to remember that word, because even starting on time, like you said, regardless of whether there's one person on the call, I actually run a weekly group coaching call, and it's every Wednesday, 9 a.m. Pacific. I start at 9 a.m. And there's a couple reasons I don't care whether there's even anyone there. I record them so they can watch them later. But also, it's my time is worth something too. And I'm not going to just sit around and wait for you to show up so that you don't miss something. That's just crazy. And sticking to an agenda. As long as those things happen, then I'm good with meetings. But it's when you go into these meetings where, especially status update meetings, why are we discussing new features in a status update meeting? I mean, a status update meeting is to update us on the status, not to build something new. Well, I've really appreciated you being on the show. I've had a good conversation with you. Why don't you let people know where they can find you?
Sure. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can search for Ram Prasad Delence. You can contact me on my website, delence.com, DELENCE.com. where there's a contact us button. You can click on that. And those are the two ways that
Great.
you can get hold of me.
I'll make sure those are in the show notes and in the description of the video so that people can reach out. They don't have to sit here and write it down and everything. But thanks again so much for being on. Really appreciate the conversation. It's always nice to talk to somebody who does something similar to what I do. So I really like that.
Well, you've been a great host. Thank you, Mike. Good questions. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Well, thanks for tuning in to Gaining the Technology Leadership Edge. We hope you've had a great time with us, learning everything that you need to know to stay ahead of the tech curve. Remember, be curious, be updated on all the latest trends, and show them who's the boss. Until next time, we'll be back with plenty more techie tips and tricks so you can stay on top of your game.